Oh, it's over. Frieren Beyond Journey's End is over. That's the finale. That's a wrap. And I am so heartbroken that we did not get a confirmation of a second season. I still think it's happening. It's got to happen. This thing is just way too successful. It did way too well for the television broadcast that it had. Everything just points to this has to continue. And yes, even at the end of the episode, it did have a tease. It's not a confirmation. I'm already seeing certain people on Twitter going, yes, confirmed, second season. No, that's not a confirmation. That is a tease. That is a tease. Unless they say second season is in production, don't believe it. Now, yes, I assume the possibility that maybe late April they have an event, an exhibit, so maybe then they may announce it. But yes, it's obviously going to be way far out. No matter what's actually confirmed and said, it's going to be way far out. We're looking at least 2 years before we get a second season, but I'm still hoping for it, and I'm still assuming it's going to happen. It's just, again, we don't have a confirmation at this point, so that's a massive heartbreak. I was really hoping that at the end they would just say at least it's greenlit. Greenlit's good. Greenlit, again, is basically saying we're going to start it soon. Not that we're starting it, but at least it's greenlit. But anyways, there's plenty of manga for it seems like, so we'll see. We'll see. That aside, episode 28, the finale, my thoughts on it. My gosh, what a fantastic way to kind of wrap things up. It was a great stopping point. It felt like a real stopping point. An idea of goodbyes, but not really goodbyes. Don't have tearful goodbyes because it's going to be embarrassing the next time we meet. It's kind of like them saying that to the viewer, which is, again, a really fantastic point to leave it. But yes, the exam. I was not expecting that many people to pass. I made my predictions last episode, and I was not expecting that many people to pass. It almost makes me feel like Serie almost, I guess, was in a cheerful mood after meeting Fern. Like, they met Fern, got to talk to Fern for a little bit, and despite that tsundere attitude, it's almost like they were more chippery, because literally, like, everybody passed after that. It was like, really? Like, even Methode. I was Land. I think Methode, again, I had my prediction around Methode, but Land? Like, Land, somebody who just literally created clones and sent a clone before her. It goes in that whole thing of, like, the audacity of you pass. Like, you know, man, you're bold. You got some guts. I'm passing you. But it's like, but Land? Like, this dude is not that powerful. He's creating clones. Now, there is power in clones, and if they're literally almost perfect copies, yes, there's an idea that he could be. But we never got to see him actually use spells, like attacking spells, if I remember correctly. So it's like, well, no, he did technically fight one of Wirbel's guys. I remember that part. But still, it's like, but he used a clone to get behind him. And it wasn't like he like went on the offense or anything like that. So it's like, yeah, I guess it's the potential there and the fact that he's young. Because it does seem like a lot of choices in passing people after Fern was around you were willing to fight and you have guts and that you're young. Those are like the three elements that Serie is looking for. Young, willing to fight, and yeah, you got guts. So that was interesting. But yeah, let's start off with Denkin. Denkin, like, I kind of was mixed on. And yes, I do feel like a lot of what would have failed him was in the idea that he was old. It seems like there's so much emphasis that Serie is giving that these people that she's kind of taken on are old. They have no potential. But it does seem like there was a change in Serie's mind. Again, I think everything that Serie chooses from this point on was sort of caused by the conversations with Fern and Frieren. This idea of potential and everything. And I think that stuff kind of changed her mind. Yeah, I would have said that normally, but I see that there's a fight in you. You still have a spark in you. So yeah, you pass. And again, because he said that he had a brief thought of actually fighting Serie, like he was going to have to fight, I think that, again, plays in the next one. The moment I heard that, and then it pops over to Ubel, I'm like, Ubel passes. Because of anybody that enters that room, Ubel's going to be ready to fight. Like, she's literally probably thinking about how she can fight, or how she can empathize with Serie. But, yeah, not even a conversation. Pass. Just looks over, pass. It's like, wait, you're not going to talk? Do we need to? Yeah, you got a point. Later. Next. But no, it is a little bit of a letdown. I was really, really expecting that Ubel would have been somebody that Serie would want to recruit. Like, to be her next, like, apprentice. Because, again, my whole thought process in the previous episode is if Serie can see how Ubel works, and which I would assume that since maybe I've told Serie that, look, Ubel has no, like, filters. Whatever, she doesn't think in, like, common sense. So she's able to envision things that shouldn't exist. She's able to get past that. And yeah, I would assume that Sede would have had the results of what happened with Ubel and that last exam. So everything points to Sede knowing that, and I assume that, again, knowing that she has no limits, that she'd be the perfect candidate to be her apprentice, and she's young. So that was a little bit of a shock. And it obviously shows that Ubel didn't stick around. She's gone. And additionally, the later scenes, the closing segments, was not with Land. So there's two possibilities here. Either, yes, she parted ways with Land, finally listened to him to leave him alone, learn what she needed to learn from Land, or is she going to see the real Land? Are we going to cut forward and Land's going to be sipping his tea and then suddenly Ubel walks up and says, finally found you. But yeah, that was a kind of a trip that it cuts over to Land and she's like, yeah, you have a lot of guts to be here like that. No, I have my real self right by. No, that's not yourself either. You're over there sipping tea. And it cuts over and he's like, whoa, wow, Ubel didn't even notice. Which I don't think that I would be more of a shock than the idea that she figured it out, not Ubel, but more the fact that, in a sense, that she just figured it out. I wouldn't compare it to what Ubel did. But yeah, Ubel did know that his things were fakes, just didn't know that the other one was a fake. That's the shocker. And I think that's probably more in the idea that she assumed he could only create one copy. And maybe that's kind of a general rule set that most people kind of go by, that you can only create one copy of yourself. So obviously, if there's two in the room, one of them's the real one. There's not a third. Can't be a third. So that was interesting. But again, very surprised that she passed Land. That was probably the biggest shock. And I think, again, I kind of want to attribute to the idea that her mindset has sort of changed beyond that point. I mean, I wasn't even shocked with Wirbel. But I think Wirbel kind of impressed Sede because he has potential, he's got a spark, he's young, and yes, he finds that all magic is just tools to kill people. He just finds any attacking type is going to be good. He literally fits into what Sede likes. Wirbel is basically the opposite of Fern. Like, he sees that this stuff is for combat, and you shouldn't be liking or disliking a particular one. It's just a tool for killing. And it seems like Sede likes that. So, that was interesting. But again, Methode was the wild card for me, because when it came to Methode, my assumption was that there's something special about Methode. Like, she's probably incredibly powerful. The thing that we kind of get indication from within the labyrinth itself, or the tome, was that she had two special things about her. The first was that there was all indication that she had the ability to reflect things, or at least take control of powers. Because we seen it with the first fight with all the gargoyles, and they were shooting down at them. I think Richter, was it Richter? I think somebody was shielding them. And then suddenly Methode went to go attack, and it looked as if the spell that was coming down at them changed colors and went back. And the same thing happened when I think it was the replica of Methode was fighting Loffen. It looked as if Loffen's staff, which she kind of extended with magic, suddenly changed colors, and then she panicked. It gave this indication that Methode knows how to take over spells. So I was kind of wondering if Methode herself was extremely powerful. And yes, her taking on Fern, seemingly able to go toe-to-toe with her, at least survived, and maybe possibly had bound the replica, or at least was getting close to being attacked by her, close range. That's a question mark. But again, it kind of gave me all indication that Methode's really powerful. I'm assuming so. But yeah, it kind of turned this whole thing where, like, it didn't really get into how she was powerful. It was just strictly in the idea of, like, It sort of gave me the indication that I think Sede couldn't read Methode. I might be drawing too much into that, but everybody that came in, Sede immediately turned and said, "You're wanting to fight. You're willing to fight." Or with, like, a Ubel, assuming that she was probably willing to fight. She always seemed that everybody was looking at her in a certain way. Methode, it seemed to indicate, based on the fact that Sede asks, "What did you think when you came in here?" It wasn't indicating that Sede could read Methode. So Methode basically has to answer, "What were you thinking when you came in here? You're cute and small." And then what's with these people? You pass. It's like, was that like a compliment? That I don't think that Sede cares. I mean, it could be one of those things of, like, you know, the attractiveness of Methode kind of just goes, "Oh, well, if she thinks I'm cute, I like that." But no, I don't know. I would assume that it's probably going to be more in the idea that Sede seen potential, couldn't read Methode, and that impressed her. Or, again, Sede knows Methode possibly is extremely powerful, or at least has a lot of potential there. So, cool stuff. Interesting stuff. I think I got everybody. I think I did. But yeah, that's that was the wrap up there. And I like how as Sere's leaving, she literally tells Sense, I apologize. It was a good batch of people. That was a good crop. Even though, again, all these people, but not Frieren. It's just, again, it goes into what Frieren keeps saying like this, like 3 times this episode. She's a child. I offended her. She's a child. And again, it did seem like Sere was going to give Frieren a chance. And I think that was in that question, what is your favorite spell? Which is funny, having at the later part of this, in response to this one guy, her apprentice, attacking her, it gets into the idea of, oh no, I offended her. Frieren kind of throws it back in her face. The idea that you thought this is a useless spell, but these are made with magic. You made these with magic. It was to emphasize the idea that Sere, despite how she acts, she does appreciate all of her apprentices. Everybody that was under her, she did appreciate. And in Flammel, that appreciation is shown in the idea that she's using that magic. Despite it being useless, you're using it. It's right here. I had a thought about that. When they went in that room the first time, I'm like, wow, that's a lot of flowers. It wasn't so much that I was feeling that she used the flower spell, but more so the idea of like having those flowers there and looking at them. It seemed like there was a connection there. So it seemed like it was breadcrumbing it altogether. This idea that, yeah, Sere did appreciate Flammel. Despite the fact that she was a failure and everything, she did appreciate her. Something came from that whole experience. So, but yeah, once they leave, Denkin thanking Frieren for helping him get through the whole situation. I like how later on Fern meets with Denkin, and Denkin at that point's like, tell Frieren I appreciate it because I got into magic because of her adventures with Himmel and the party. That's what inspired me to become a mage. And she's like, well, tell that to Frieren. She would probably really appreciate that. Which is kind of surprised this episode we didn't get that scene. Maybe in the future we might run into Denkin again and then he can tell her that at that point. But yeah, that was a funny little segment there with him, basically. It finally explains why Loffin's going everywhere with Denkin. It seems like, yes, it seems like because he never had children or grandchildren, he likes to spoil anybody that he runs into. So yeah, with Fern and Stark there and Loffin there, it's like, eat all these sweets. I didn't get to eat much when I was growing up. Eat, enjoy it. I have nothing to use my money on. And it turns into a really sad story because what it seems like Denkin's whole thing is that, yes, he had this woman that he was in love with. She died when he was in his mid-30s or mid-20s. And it seemed like his whole purpose of what he did was to gain status so that he can get her the help that she needed. He needed status to help her because her father seemingly fell in a political battle. So it was up to him to help her. And yeah, it seems like he would have chosen to work with Sere or at least go towards this whole thing with the association so that he could get maybe a spell to help her. But it wasn't there yet. So he was kind of forced to just get political power, and that led him to becoming an Imperial Mage. But unfortunately, it was all over. Like, he didn't make it in time. So that's kind of been his whole regrets that he has. And yes, it does confirm that this grave does exist. Because I was wondering that, because it seemed like there was a different answer. It seemed like he was trying to change the system early on. But then it turned into, no, I want to become a first class so that I can go up to north and see the grave. Which this pretty much confirms it. Yes, there's a grave up there. It's going to be his wife. Or I don't know if I think it was his wife. This is the one that he loved. So he's going to go up there and see her grave. So it makes sense. Yeah, it said his wife. That's when we get the scene with Frieren and Wirbel, which is funny because in the manga, it seems to indicate that Friren's sitting down with the book in her hand and she's deciding if she wants to get up to help. And it seemed like the anime adaptation tried to make it look like Frieren was less of a mean person by the idea that she had because when I watch the anime, she has a ton of grimoires in her hand. So it makes sense that she's not able to just kind of go flip, throw it over there and then go help her out. So yeah, I can see the pause there. I mean, now granted, she might be able to use the magic while she's got the stuff in her hand. I think she needs her staff in her hand. But it was funny to kind of see that whole thing where in the anime, I'm like, well, that makes sense. She's got a bunch of stuff in her hand. So yeah, of course she's not going to be able to find a place for it immediately. But yet in the manga, she's literally sitting down with a book in her hand. She could easily set it down and go help. So again, the manga makes her look like she's actually mean. But no, it was cute because we have Wirbel show up. He helps out the old lady. Again, kind of trying to draw this parallel or this contrast to what we assume Wirbel is. He is this commander. He's bloodthirsty. He's killed a lot, all that kind of stuff. And again, getting into how Fern didn't like him because he was willing to kill their members. Which, no, that wasn't the case. He's like, no, I was just trying to threaten them. Now, he does admit one of those people, Ubel, the world would be greater off without her there. This is a nasty person that probably is a dangerous person to society and would probably be better off without her. But that's not his goal. I like how this whole segment really does show Frieren, once again, what Hamel has sort of done to change the world. Hamel wasn't the hero that just went straight to the Demon King and killed the Demon King. No, they were constantly stopping and helping people. There was 2 aspects of their journey so far they've pretty much highlighted that has been part of their journey. The original journey is Hamel going up there and taking out the Demon Lord. Now, yes, they have to get stronger during the way, so that's technically a third. But there's two kind of paths they took that sort of swayed them from their main course. One is sort of giving memories to Frieren, going into dungeons, getting grimoires, all these things that make Frieren happy. Essentially trying to make Frieren happy, because he does appreciate Frieren. The other is, yes, constantly stopping to help people. It was something that Wirbel, at the time, did when he was younger, didn't see the purpose of. He read the stories of Himmel doing the great feats, taking down the big bosses, taking down the massive towers. Not these dumb stories that the villagers were telling, that he helped them with, delivering this thing, or picked up this box, or helped this old lady out. Those were the boring stories. But he didn't realize until afterwards, once his, Himmel died, all the remaining demons kind of rose up and started attacking again, that yeah, if it weren't for him, there would never have been a village to begin with. Because he came by there and helped them, they were able to rebuild. They were focused on each other. He inspired people to help each other out. And it's something that Wirbel has lived his entire life for. He wouldn't be where he's at now if it weren't for those stories about Himmel being a good person and helping people. What I'm gathering, what it's saying here, is that essentially Wirbel, if he was just looking at the grand adventures and the amazing achievements of Himmel, he would just be focused on that. But no, instead, Wirbel was inspired by those other stories, the ones where they helped out people. And so that became Wirbel's purpose. It's this idea that instead of focusing on achieving something to make a grand name for yourself, you're focused on just helping people. You have a purpose to help others. And that's something that's driven Wirbel. Because that does make sense. When we keep talking about how the fact that Wirbel was, this commander of this army, he's going out and fighting all these people. If he did not have a desire to help people and to rescue people and to save people, he would never have done any of this stuff. He wouldn't have protected people. Now, yes, it gets in that whole thing where Wirbel was technically helping one country fight another country, which is in a sense destroying other people. But in the midst of there is this idea of what helped him keep pushing forward. What was his purpose? And that was saving people. It was saving his hometown. It was getting stronger. It was so that he could one day get that insane demon-killing spell from Serie so that he can kill demons that are attacking his hometown and the people that are the victims of those demons. So it's really cool. And again, like how Fern kind of acknowledged it, like, yeah, Hamel, don't worry. You've definitely changed the world. You've changed how people view things just by those kind deeds that you did. But yeah, that's when we go to the receiving the privileges. Frieren has been banned. Like, what? She's literally been banned. Frieren is banned from going into any of this association's facilities, any facility, for 1,000 years. Like, she can't even go in there. She can't go to any of them. She's been banned. She's like, yeah, I upset her. She's just a kid. I'm waiting outside. And yeah, Stark joins her. And then we get the confrontation with Lernen. That Lernen shows up. This bugged me. I do kind of see Lernen's side of this whole situation, and I do like that it kind of shines a spotlight on how Serie actually does feel about her apprentices. This idea that she does appreciate them. I mentioned it earlier. This idea that, yes, despite the fact that she's tsundere and everybody's a failure, she still appreciates every single one of them. Does not regret ever taking on a single one of them. Will always remember them despite that. And yeah, Lernen was fearing the idea that he was a failure too, and that he was just going to die away in obscurity. He was not going to achieve something great. So I guess instead of saying that he could defeat Frieren, I think she said that out loud in front of him, he decides that he's going to take on Frieren. He's going to defeat her, kill her, so that he can make a name for himself, so that he'll go down in legends and won't be forgotten. That's the key thing there. It seemed like it worded a little bit differently in the anime with the subtitles, but that's essentially what they're saying there. He wants to make a name for himself so that Serie isn't without any names under her with people of achievements. Flamel is the only one. And people are going to forget about Flamel eventually. So I need to make a name for myself so that there's an achievement for what Serie did. Which I think is kind of he kind of does acknowledge that it is an infamy. But at the same time, it's kind of nasty. Like, it's like, why would Why would that be a good thing? I think that would be a bad thing against Serie. Like, oh, it's Serie, the one that trained the one that killed the famous mage that helped Himmel defeat the Demon Lord that saved everybody. It does seem a little bit illogical, but that does technically go to the point that Frieren says. I'm not going to fight you because it's pointless. It's useless. There's no reason for me to fight you. You people that train magic just to fight, you're an awkward bunch. You guys don't make any sense. And yes, he does technically acknowledge that. Yeah, me and Serie, yeah, we are truly awkward, aren't we? Like, he acknowledges that we're just kind of weird. And I think that kind of shows that contrast between, like, Frieren and normal people and, you know, essentially Lernen and Serie. This idea that these people are so focused on combat and having power and destroying things that we don't see the world the same way that normal people that just want to socialize with other people, help other people, and just live and exist. It's an oddity there. And that was technically what Serie was dealing with Frieren. She won't bend to what I want her to be, which is powerful. She just wants to find all these magics because it makes her happy. That doesn't make any sense. Just wants to be with other people. That doesn't make any sense. No, you should want to be powerful, like me. Be like me. But yeah, it was an awkward little situation there, but I'm glad that it kind of resolved decently. It could have ended really badly. But yeah, I guess we had to have one last bang before the end of the season, I guess. But yeah, going from there, they all leaving. Everybody's saying goodbye to Stark. So apparently, while they were doing the exams, everybody grew to like Stark. But as they're leaving, yes, we find out what Fern asked. The spell that Fern asked for. And yeah, spotless cleaning. I could make anything spotless. It'll be great for actually cleaning clothes, which is like, yeah, in that time setting, yeah, that setting, I think it's a really great spell because, yeah, to clean your clothes in that time setting, I mean, yes, technically with magic, you can do a lot of things with water magic and stuff like that. But yeah, like scrubbing and everything is a pain in the butt. So that's actually a really time-saving and useful spell if you think about it. But I did immediately think, oh gosh, Serie didn't like that. Yeah, sure enough. Feren's like, that's my student right there. You did good. And then she's like, yeah, Serie wasn't too happy. Serie had a Frieren face. Did we see that? Serie had a Frieren face. I don't think we ever got that face from her before. But yeah, it was super cute. I love that. Serves her right. Serves her right. But yeah, then we get into the quick goodbyes because they have to say goodbye to Kane and Lawine. We get a little bit of sense of Himmel and how he always decided that he wanted to essentially give quick goodbyes. Because if you give a big, long, tearful goodbye, it would be very awkward when we meet each other again. Which, yes, honestly, that part got me. It's like I was expecting to have one moment throughout this entire episode that was going to get me emotional. That was the part. Because it was literally, again, Himmel basically saying, I didn't want to give tearful goodbyes to Frieren back then. Because one day, we'll meet again. We never got a big tearful goodbye with Himmel. It's literally Himmel flagging the story, or at least giving that desire to Frieren in a sense, because it's basically signifying to Frieren, we're going to meet again someday. And that's the whole concept here. They're going all the way up to north. Why? To see Himmel. So they never had to have that tearful goodbye. Because then it'd be really awkward when Frieren finally reaches there and she gets to see Himmel's spirit. That, yeah, it's going to be awkward. It's going to be embarrassing. It was like, again, like it got me all emotional because it kind of gives that last little hope at the end of this story, this season, that yes, if you forgot, that's where she's going. She's going to see Himmel again. And yes, it does give you that little emotional hit there because it's Himmel walking away from Frieren. But it's that hope. It's even though it's tragic, it's sad, it's reminding us of that disconnection of somebody that Frieren realized that was very important to her and how she was important to Himmel. At least there's that hope that they are going to meet again. So it was a nice little wrap up. And yeah, seeing all the little shots of all the characters and everything. It looked like Lernen met with, it seemed to indicate like Ere maybe met Lernen or knew Lernen and that she introduced him to Wirbel. And again, we got to see Ubel and she was walking away. Good question. What did everybody ask for? I was surprised that Wirbel didn't mention. He did say that he was going to get a spell to kill demons. So maybe he got a spell to kill demons. But yeah, Denkin, we didn't really get a sense of what he would even ask for. Hopefully it's not like a resurrection spell and he's trying to revive his wife. That would be interesting if there's something like that actually can do that. I doubt there is. There's no indication, but there's no indication against it. Serie would be probably excited for that because she could revive her students and keep them training. But outside that, Ubel, what would Ubel ask for? That's a good question mark. Maybe she asked for a cloning spell, and so she no longer needs to be with Lan. That's maybe why in those later scenes, Ubel was walking alone. Again, there's a prediction that she went to go see land, like the real land, or at least maybe an identifier to locate people. And then she gets that spell. She's always known, and so she wants to locate the real land. So I'm going to say either a clone ability with Ubel or to locate land, a spell to locate land. That would be hilarious. Method, I couldn't even tell you. We unfortunately didn't get enough of Method to really tell. But anyhow, it's a really long recording to say I absolutely love this series. I hope they announce another season. Again, I'm predicting at this point maybe late April we'll get an announcement for it, or they could just take their time because again, it's going to be a long time before we get another season altogether. So why announce it so early? They might take their time before they announce it. Not that they have to one way or the other, but we'll see. I'm expecting it because of how well it did. But yeah, I will probably most definitely be doing a review video of this series. It's going to take me a while. I'm probably going to want to make a script for it because there's so much to cover, and I don't even know how I'm going to be able to get it through and really, I guess, properly explain why this series is so great. It's one of those types of series that I think no matter what words I use, no justice is served. I'm glad to see that it did so well. Top in the charts on Mal still for now. It's a fantastic series. Love it to death. And I thank you guys for joining me every week for my impressions of this series. It's been a lot of fun. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this video. As always, if you did, make sure that like button down below, comment, let me know a lot of this series and the episode altogether. Additionally, if you're new to the channel, make sure that subscribe button to get my content. I do reviews, first impressions, top list. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you like this content, you want to support the channel more, I have Patreon link, tips, links, everything, membership button down below. Greatly appreciate it, but it does. And y'all take care.